We're seeing a huge move from the DXY today on a hot US jobs report. So what does this mean for the euro, the pound, gold, and also the Australian dollar versus the Canadian dollar? I'll have all of the details on what to expect for next week, including key levels and targets. And I'll tell you guys at the start that this is a move right here that could have implications for the next few weeks and potentially even months. So this is a must-watch video. Now, before we get started, if you guys want my help with your trading and if you want to see my trades in real time, including trades like this one here that I put on the pound 2 days ago, there was a very technical reason for this. And this is why in recent videos, you guys have probably heard me leaning a little bit bearish on pairs like the euro and the pound, despite the fact that they were rallying. So if you want to see my trades in real time, get daily videos that you can only get in the VIP group and also get exclusive setups and lifetime access to the course that I just launched that teaches you how to trade stuff like this right here, then click on the link at the top of this video and that's going to give you 90% off lifetime access to the trading group and also course. Or if you're on the website, click on that join VIP link and that will take you to a page where you can also get 90% off lifetime access. All right, guys, so let's go to get right into today's video here, talking about the DXY first, the US dollar index. So today we got NFP US jobs report, and the DXY clearly, dollar bulls clearly like that report because we got a huge move here from the DXY, almost up 0.8%, which is a big move for the dollar, for the dollar index. Now, this move right here is something that I've kind of alluded to all week long. And even though this wasn't the likely scenario when the market was trading down here, this right here was something that we could not rule out. And I mentioned this time and time again in both the videos on the EURUSD and also the pound USD. And that's because of what we've seen the DXY do ever since back here. So I want to point something out here. If you'll notice that ever since the start of this year, and even at the end of last year, this move right here below 101.9, this right here was a failed breakdown, because you can see where we had this key level that had developed here, support here, we got the breakdown, support once again, support here. So we got the breakdown that closed back above. Notice what got tested as new support, and then we got the rally. Now this over here, same thing. We had the break below this key area right here. So once again, right around 103, we had these lows through here, this high, you can see these lows around 103. So we had the close below, close back above, and rally. All right, so wash, rinse, repeat. We've seen this time and time again here from the DXY. And what you'll notice is that this latest move below the bottom of this channel that we've talked about looks to be the exact same thing, So we got the breakdown below this 104.5 area, which again is the bottom of this channel right here. So breakdown below and potentially the close back above here today. So if this is the case, this could have implications for the next few weeks, because if you'll notice, these moves right here, this is the daily time frame. So these moves took, a month, if not 2 months to play out. So this could be a new trend developing here for the DXY where we get the US dollar moving higher once again within this ascending channel. And if you go back far enough too, all the way back here to 2023, let me go ahead and get rid of these boxes here so we can clean this chart up a little bit. And if you'll notice, even this move right here last year was also a failed breakout. So again, this is what I teach in the course, and this is also how I trade. Notice this move down here, all right? Close below, close back above, retest as new support, massive rally, So this stuff happens time and time again. And in my opinion, what we're seeing here this week from the DXY is just more of the same of what we've seen over the past year. So for the DXY, if it does reclaim this area around 104.65 today, so this is the bottom of that channel. If it reclaims this level down here today, this becomes support. We have resistance up here right around 105, just above that mark. A reclaim there would expose 105.6. So given this move today, I would expect to see some type of pullback early next week. So, Monday, Tuesday, maybe we get the market consolidating through here. But as long as it holds above this area around 104.65 or so on a daily closing basis, then I like the dollar higher up there toward 105 and 105.6. All right, now one thing here before we move on, I think this is important because we've also talked about this much larger channel. So really this has been a channel within a channel. And you can see that we have this larger channel that goes all the way back here to the highs in 2023. We then got these two lows, so parallel channel. And this is what we've seen here from the DXY ever since this time in 2023. So we got the move lower, move up here toward resistance, move down here towards support, And what I mentioned recently with this breakdown here, it did look like we could get a run down here at channel support. However, with this reclaim, again, I've alluded to this a few times this week, with this reclaim, with the DXY back inside of this smaller ascending channel here, in my opinion, we are likely, over the coming weeks and months, potentially to see a move all the way up here toward about 109, potentially 110. And there is a very good technical reason for this. If we go to the weekly chart, I've talked about this before. If you guys have followed me for a while, if you'll notice this big red candle right here on the weekly, notice that following this breakdown, so this candle right here that closed, this broke a critical level right through here. However, even though we got a partial retrace, notice how much of that candle is left untouched. So this area up here in the 109 region, in my opinion, this has been my longer term target for the DXY for months, in fact, over a year. And so I think with this reclaim, if the market can hold above the bottom of this channel down here, then I think over the coming weeks, we could finally get that move up toward 109 to 110. Of course, I could be wrong, and keep in mind that this could take months to play out. But I do think that eventually we are likely to see the DXY trend higher toward 109 to 110. So next up, we have the EURUSD, which we've talked about this trend line here off of this 2021 high. And you can see where we did get the move above this level this week on a daily closing basis. However, the weekly was always holding below this level. We never got a weekly close above this. So this was always intact as resistance here on the weekly. Now, if we go to the daily, this is, again, what I've alluded to this week is that a sustained break below this area down here around 108.60 or so, a sustained break back below this would make this up here a failed breakout and expose lower levels. That would mark a swing high here for the EURUSD and expose those lower levels. And that's exactly what we're seeing here today on that hot US jobs report. So again, I didn't know that this was going to happen. This isn't a case of me saying I told you so. It's more just the fact that I was waiting to see what we got here, because as I've said before, this right here fits perfectly with my style of trading. I don't trade breakouts. I look for failed breakouts, and this certainly qualifies. So with that in mind for next week, like I mentioned with the DXY, they do move inversely to one another. So if we are going to see the DXY pull back and test that 104.6 area, then we could see the same for the euro. Now, will we get the market moving all the way back up here to retest this before lower? We'll have to wait and see. I'm a little bit skeptical of that just because I think that, would potentially put the DXY back below 104.6. So I'm not convinced that we get a full retest up here. However, I do think that we get, some type of a partial retracement into this area early next week before we get lower down here towards support. Now, keep that in mind as well that we do have support down here. So we could see this tested early next week only to get a bounce, fill in this imbalance up here from today's candle, and then we get lower exposing levels like 107.25. So level by level basis for the EURUSD here. But again, this up here fits perfectly with my style of trading those failed breakouts. No guarantees, obviously. I could be wrong here, but I do think that this opens up downside targets over the coming weeks. So next up is the pound here, which is very similar to the euro. We do have a trend line off of several highs back here in 2021. There are a few different ways to draw this, but this one certainly qualifies. And you can see where, once again, the market is coming off of resistance here, very similar to the euro. And I do have a short position on here that I put on 2 days ago that is in profit. I don't trade very often, guys. I'm very selective with my trades, but this did qualify. And this right here is one reason why in videos this week, I was leaning a little bit bearish on the pound, and the same thing for the euro, even though we still had the market, at least for the euro, trading above support, the DXY was still below resistance, etc. But this right here from the pound is what kind of had me leaning a little bit bearish on these pairs, because you can see that this is the exact placement of that trend line, right? And you had Monday close above and then Tuesday close back below. Now look what happened over the next 2 days. This level served as resistance on a daily closing basis. So this right here is why I was getting short on this candle. So right through here, I was getting short, and my stop loss, as I showed in the beginning of this video, is, well up here. So this right here, this candle today came nowhere close to my stop loss. And even though it is a relatively wide stop, this right here, the trade idea that I've outlined is still a 4.5 R. So that means that the reward is 4.5 times the risk. So obviously no guarantees that it plays out. But I do think, like I said with the euro, I do think that this is signs of a top here for the pound. Now, one thing to keep in mind as well, and we talked about this earlier this week, but if you'll notice here on the 4-hour time frame, okay, so we have a trend line off of some of these recent lows. So where I would personally draw this trend line is right through here. And you can see where it does cut off this wick down here on this candle. However, notice how the 4-hour never closed below this. So technically, this is still valid. And we also have this low here. We've got this one, and now we have the breakdown, okay? So one thing to watch on the pound next week, and keep in mind too, that this is technically a rising wedge, okay? So you can see that off of these highs, we also have these wicks up here. So we talked about this in previous videos, but you can see we've got several highs off of this level. And then of course we have the bottom level down here. Okay, so going into next week, here's what I would watch on the pound. And as always, guys, this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion, but we know that the market is coming off of that 2021 trend line. Okay, so it's coming off of resistance. And that's the first thing to note, because that alone kind of gives you a little bit of a bias because you don't want to be buying into resistance, right? So I think that we probably get the move lower here over the coming weeks. But what I would watch next week is obviously we've had a big move lower today. So chances are we see the pound retrace at least a portion of today's candle to fill that imbalance next week. Okay, now one area to keep an eye on is going to be this pivot right through here. So on the daily chart, notice off of this closing price, right around 1.2769 or so. Okay, this area up here, notice how we have this closing price right here. Okay, then the market broke below. We then had the break above and then support through here. And now the pound is back below that. Okay, so this was the fake out above that 2021 trend line. We now have a breakdown of this key area. So I think this region through here is going to be one to watch for the pound, which could also line up with the DXY testing that 104.6 support area. Okay, so obviously what would negate this is if next week we saw the pound close back up here in this area. If it were to come down here, do something like this, and then close above here, then of course this would negate the bearish bias. But as of right now, given what we're seeing here on the pound, the euro, and also the DXY reclaiming that channel, I do think that, again, this looks like a swing high here for the pound to where we could get that rotation lower over the coming weeks. So next up we have gold, which has been sideways here for a very long time. I mean, going all the way back here to April, the market has just been sideways. However, one thing to note here is even though this isn't really a textbook head and shoulders, you do have the market carving these highs. This was technically a higher high. This obviously a lower high. And right now we do have the market breaking down. Okay, so the area to watch here next week is going to be the top of this channel. So going back to 2023, you can see we have this ascending channel. Again, we have this wick. However, the market never closed above this, so it is valid. We have this high right here. We've got this low and two lows right through here. Now, obviously, today's candle looks like it's about to break down. So if we get the close below the top of this channel up here, then this becomes resistance next week. And we could finally get that rotation, that pullback here from gold after a lot of sideways action from this market. Now, with all that said, though, keep in mind that with this amount of sideways action, there is going to be very strong support right down here in this area. Okay, so you can see that we do have this pivot from right back here, right around 2265 or so. And there's also going to be an area a little bit higher up down here in this region. Okay, so we've got this low down here, and then we've also got these lows. So this is going to be key support for gold. You do not want to be shorting into this, in my opinion, because really this has just been one big range. But again, I think that if this area holds up here, then we could get the move down here into 2265, 2280, followed by a bounce. This becomes resistance, and then we could finally get that rotation lower and a pullback here from gold. Of course, the alternative scenario here would be to see the market bounce from here, come up here and just reclaim this and just continue to consolidate. And last up for today, let's talk about the Australian dollar versus the Canadian dollar here. Not one of the more popular pairs, but I do think that this price action lately is interesting. Okay, so first of all, you can see where we do have the market just kind of ranging here for quite a while. And we also had higher lows down here off of this trend line. Okay, so there hasn't been a retest down here of this trend line for quite some time. Now, it doesn't mean that we will get one soon, but it is something to note because you've seen the market kind of return to this level over and over again, right? Now, what could trigger the move lower here for the Aussie CAD would be a sustained break below this level up here around 90.57 or so. So if you'll notice this high right back here, we had several highs here on the daily. And if I move in, what you'll notice is how clean this level has been here on the daily time frame. Okay, so going in here, you can see that we have resistance here on a daily closing basis, meaning that even though we had a few weeks above this mark, the market never closed above it. Okay, so once again, same thing over here. We had the close above, this level became new support. Now, notice where today's candle is trading right now. Now, this is too close to call, okay? If we get the market closing here, this is inconclusive in my opinion, because you would need something more than just a few pips below this level in order to confirm the breakdown. So I need to see a little bit more from this pair. If it were to close, down here in this area, that would make me feel a little bit better about this up here being a failed breakout and getting that rotation lower. Okay, and it could take until next week. This could be a Monday or Tuesday setup here for the Aussie CAD, but I did want to present it to you because I think that if we get the sustained break below this key level here, okay, so a sustained break down here in this area, then this up here becomes our failed breakout. And the most logical area in that case for a move lower would be down here at this trend line. Now, this level around 89.36 is a weekly level. Okay, yes, it has some touches there on the daily, but if you'll notice on the weekly chart, this is also very clean. Okay, so we've got these lows back here, and then we've got these highs. Okay, so big weekly level down here, which also comes in pretty close to that trend line right through here. Now you can see that this is a potential bearish pin bar with a long upper wick. So don't be surprised, especially with a CAD pair. Do not be surprised if we get the market closing, right at this level or just below, and then early next week we get a move up here intraday followed by the move lower. Okay, so keep in mind that we do have a big upper wick here on the weekly time frame, so that could indicate a move higher first next week before we finally get the move lower. But again, I think that this is something to keep an eye on over the coming days. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. Don't forget to claim your 90% off lifetime access to the trading group and also course. See the link in the description of this video, or if you're on the website, click on that join VIP link. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.